Unfortunately, Israel will not heed this advice nor pay attention too much to this move by David Cameron, by Foreign Secretary David Cameron.
We're also joined on the line by, as mentioned, Alon Pinkas, the former Israeli diplomat and former foreign policy advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister. Alon, how much weight will, back to Lord Cameron's comments, how much weight will they carry in Israel?
Unfortunately, and I mean that, unfortunately, not much. I wish I had one issue, one statement that MP Kearns made that I could disagree with, but I cannot. I agree with everything and subscribe to everything she said. I think the UK move was expected, as Member of Parliament Kearns said. It follows the US and the EU move, so there's nothing uniquely British about this. It just shows that there is a commonality of approach by good allies. Unfortunately, I go back to your question, Rhea. Unfortunately, Israel will not heed this advice nor pay attention too much to this move by David Cameron, by Foreign Secretary David Cameron.
Is it a sign of though, a wider shift in the relations between Israel and its supporters around the world, the US and the UK, and one that perhaps will go down a different route as time goes on if the war continues?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, Rhea. But you have to put it in a broader perspective. Before the war began, there were 9 months of a constitutional coup that Mr. Netanyahu instigated and launched. That already pulled Israel out of the so-called liberal, loosely called liberal democratic countries in which both the UK and the US are members. He tried to get Israel closer to the Viktor Orban. You mentioned his name at the last portion of your conversation with MP Kearns. He tried to move Israel to be closer to Viktor Orban of Hungary or Vladimir Putin of Russia, and there was a big pushback in Israel. I think what happens in the rift that has developed between particularly Israel and the US, less so with the UK, but the US, which is Israel's major ally, is a very significant thing because it relates and pertains to several levels of disagreement and divergence of interests.
Can I just pick up on one point you made there, that you said less so than the UK? Why so?
Well, only because the U.S. is Israel's prime strategic ally. Israel maintains a very good, a uniquely good relationship with Great Britain. But in terms of an alliance, in terms of a strategic political umbrella, in terms of military aid, in terms of political support, obviously no one can match or compete with the U.S.'s position in the overall scheme of Israeli foreign policy.
Okay, so what the UK says doesn't really matter in the bigger scheme of things in Israel.
Well, it does. It does because the UK is an ally, and if it follows what the EU decided, it does matter. But you asked me specifically, Rhea, will this resonate? Will this have an impact with this particular government in the foreseeable future? The answer is no. Will it have a cumulative effect in the longer run? Absolutely.
Okay. Alon Pinkas, really good to have you on the show. Former Israeli diplomat and former foreign policy advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister.